Hi, Sarah. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I love it all the way from Vancouver.
Yes, it's finally sunny here.
Oh yeah, because it's always raining,
You can
right?
see like sun beaming into the office. Usually we have a fan on, but I obviously don't right now for the purposes of audio.
Yeah,
And if I
thank you.
start beating in sweat, you know why.
Don't worry, you look beautiful.
Thank you.
So thanks so much for being with us. I just want to jump right into your story because I absolutely love it and I love what you're working on. So I just want to get to it. You graduated in film and then you joined the film industry. And I know you had a lot of interesting positions after you
Mhm.
graduated. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I went to film school with the hopes of becoming a video producer, actually. After I left film school and dabbled in the film industry for a while, I don't know, maybe a year or two, I would say I quickly realized that the reality of me actually getting to create videos was not anywhere in my near future, because if you want to work on large productions, you have to put your time in, and that's starting with guarding pylons, even on like indie film sets where you're not even getting paid. So lots of volunteer work. You like got to put your time in. On top of that, like the hours are just wild. Like you
Really?
work like sometimes 15, 20-hour days for 3 months straight, and that's just not the life I want to live. So yeah, I left and started actually creating, which really fulfills me. And that's where I spent 5 to 6 years of my career.
Okay, so how old were you when you kind of like left the film industry or realized that it wasn't for you?
Maybe I was 21. So like film school was only a year and a half.
Hmm.
And then I went straight into it. So maybe 20, 21.
Okay, and then you said that you
Yeah.
started reading for 5, 6 years.
Yes.
And is that the
Maybe 7
period,
years. Yeah.
is that the period you're in now?
No, so that was before I launched LifeLapse.
Okay, so what was this
Yeah.
creation period like?
Yeah, so I started out at Clearly, formerly known as Clearly Contacts. So
Mhm.
they're an online eyewear company. They're pretty big in Canada. And I started out doing their product shots. So I'd literally take 3 photos of every pair of new glasses that would come in. I quickly grew out of that position. It was very mundane, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
And I created this video content creation role, just with video blowing up on social media. I basically like morphed into that position, and
Mhm.
from there on out, I have been creating videos for brands for multiple different brands, in-house and through freelance. Yeah, and then I launched LifeLapse.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I get my contacts from Clearly still today, so that's super cool.
nice, cool.
And I'm just wondering, when you worked for them, at what age were you before when you like started LifeLapse?
Well, I started 3 years ago, and I'm 31 now, so 28, I guess. I
Okay.
was technically 27, and then a few weeks later, I was 28. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you come up with the idea for LifeLapse?
Yeah, so the idea was actually not what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a personal time lapse app. So think of somebody who's pregnant and they want to make a time lapse of their bump growing over 9 months. So to line yourself up between each month, unless you have a tripod staying in one spot for 9 months, which who has a space or patience for that?
Yeah.
So the app launched for pregnancy time lapses, travel time lapses. So think of somebody who wants to do like a very specific pose in every city they go to. They can use our ghost feature in camera and line themselves up so that it's the same. It's kind of hard to explain. Maybe I can send you a video so you
Okay,
can
yeah, sure.
have an example. But yeah, basically you can like line yourself up, and then when you play the video back, it's like the background's changing and the person's in the same spot.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, but how did you come up
Hence
with
life lapse.
Yeah, now it's life, right?
Well, now it's
Um,
life lapse. It's still life lapse, but yeah.
but now it is for everything life, not just pregnancy bumps and traveling.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you come up with that idea?
I always have a million ideas for everything. For me, I wanted to create an app that was really unique and different. Obviously, there's a million different video apps out there. There wasn't anything specific for this. And I wanted to create something that the end result for the person creating the video would be a really eye-catching video that would leave their viewers being like, wow, how did you create that?
I know LifeLapse isn't your first business. So can you tell us a little bit about your other businesses and how they actually helped you create LifeLapse and the success that it is today?
Sure. I would say like my previous businesses, they're more side projects. So I have like shiny object syndrome. And when I have a new idea, I'll like spend a couple months on a side project. Even to this day, I still launch all these side projects, even though last year I said I would stop with that because I just need to focus on growing LifeLapse. My other businesses, so we actually have another app. It's called Zoomy, and it basically applies a slow zoom motion to any existing photos that you have or video clips. Over COVID, actually, I launched a business with my friend called Quarantine Greeting Cards. And that was just to make moments still special. There were funny kind of cheeky sayings related to obviously quarantine and still make birthdays, anniversaries, stuff like that still special. And yeah, I feel like I need that creative outlet always to have something. I always need to have a million things on the go. It's not the most productive use of my time, but I do feel really fulfilled doing them, even though it usually fizzles off after a couple months.
I love that you execute on every idea, though.
Not every idea, but
a lot of them, though. If you're always having so many projects, it's so awesome because I'm the type of person where, I have a lot of ideas, but I'm always like, oh, it's not going to work because of this. And then I don't do it. So I'm actually wondering, when you get ideas, and because you've executed so many of them, is there like a process that you go through every time you get an idea, like some kind of market research or to just find like if there's a viable idea?
No, I don't do any market research, which is so bad. And I tell anyone who wants to start a business to do that and see first what's the problem that you're solving before you think you're providing a solution. But usually with these other side projects that I launch, they're not really, there's no investment in them. So like the Quarantine Greeting Card, we use a print-on-demand company. So it's all third-party fulfillment. I'm really into like building scalable businesses now and not trading my time for money. So it's more of just like, if the domain's available, start the Instagram account, launch the email campaigns. It depends on the business, obviously, but that was the process for the Quarantine Cards company.
But even for the Quarantine Cards, like how did you know there was a need for that? You just kind of went for it? You're just like, oh, campaigns, let's sell them?
No, actually, I was going, so it was a friend's birthday, and we went to the store to buy her a card, my husband and I, and like none of the cards just felt appropriate. It was like, yeah, have the best celebration ever, but it's like, meanwhile, this is like in April when we were all super hunkered down, and it's just like this really grim time of like not being able to be in person with people, and I just, like, there wasn't anything in the market to fill that obvious need of like, hey, like, I think we had one was like happy birthday corn queen. I don't know. There's tons of like fun.
Yeah. Stuff. So very related to the times.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And like, obviously it was just such a fast thing that happened with quarantine that it was just like, we just jumped on the opportunity and went for it.
I love it. Is it, are you making any profit from it?
So right now we're collaborating with an influencer in California to do these postcard packs, and we've shifted away from quarantine and now it's on helping bring awareness to anti-racism. We did some pride postcards, and And all the profits from that are getting donated to various different charities, from Black Lives Matter to,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
So I'd say like we made money on it initially, but now it's just all getting donated back in. And if anything, like we came out even. And I don't know, it was a fun project to do, and to see people get these cards. It was awesome.
I love it. I love that. I love that you just execute on your ideas, you make difference, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to move on now and do something else.
Yeah. So once the summer dies down, we're going to probably kind of fizzle out because we're not in quarantine anymore. So, and it does take some time to like maintain the Shopify store, and obviously there's fees associated with that. So just like acknowledge what it was and move on.
Yeah. In terms of time management though, if you're having so many projects at once, how are you juggling it, or what usually gives? Do you have like a priority system or something in place to be able to juggle all of it?
I wish I could tell you that I have this awesome like calendar and formula for how I work, but
it's a no formula podcast, so we understand.
Like, do you allow swearing on your podcast?
Yes,
it's a shit show, okay? My calendar is a shit show. I'll operate from periods where I'm like when we launched quarantine cards, for example, it was like from the second I got up to the moment we went to bed, it was like working on this, and then in 5 days it was launched. And then I'll take a breather. So I'm very, I don't really have balance. I'm like all in or I'm all out.
Like cyclical. Like it'll take like 2 months, you'll go all in, and then you're like peace for 3 months.
Yeah. And in terms of like LifeLapse, it's at a pretty solid state now where it can run on its own if need be. Obviously, if we want to continue growing it, we have to give it time and attention and love. And that's what we're doing now. So I am getting more into this phase of like, I just got this office, so I'm like coming in every day, putting in good hours, but then like going home and not working.
That's good.
So I do feel like I have the balance now, but I know like if we're doing a major launch or I have my next business idea, it'll be like back to that chaos of going all in. Yeah,
of course. I don't know if you want to answer this question, but how many users do you have right now?
Yeah, so we've got probably about 100,000 monthly active users.
Wow, that's so good.
Yeah.
And it's what, 2 years old, 2.5 years old?
It's coming up to 3 years, end of September. So I think total we've got maybe 1.4 million downloads to date. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Sorry, I just registered.
Yeah.
And also, if you can talk about this, because I think it's so interesting, especially with apps, it's how you monetize the app. So can you go into a little bit more detail of how you make sure that you're not only getting the users, but then you're making sure that they upgrade to like the pro or any other ways that you monetize?
Yeah, so we're a freemium SaaS business, so software as a service, if you're not familiar with SaaS. So people can download the app for free. They can literally create like 1 billion videos for free if they want. And then if they want to access any of the pro features, that's a pro subscription. So we have things like tools in our editor to adjust the brightness, the contrast of the video. That's a pro feature. If you want to access any of our royalty-free music or songs to go in the app, that's all part of the pro. So that's how we monetize. It works out to be $3 a month US when you subscribe annually. That's pretty reasonable.
That's very reasonable.
And that's how we make money.
What do you think is the biggest lesson you learned from LifeLapse that you didn't learn from all the other businesses that you've had?
I would say like this is out of all the businesses that I've launched, this is the only one I've spent this much time and effort on. I would say like my biggest learning is honestly just listening to our customers and seeing how they're using the app. Because as I mentioned, the app didn't launch as a stop motion video app. What we were marketing as 3 years ago is very, very different to what we're doing now, which is we're a stop motion app. So we help brands, influencers, and creators create really eye-catching videos with stop motion. And like, we would have never pivoted to this idea and marketed ourselves to that, and we build out features specifically for stop motion now, had we not seen, you know, those users 8 months into launch creating stop motions with the app instead of these pregnancy time lapses or the travel time lapses.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That must be hard though, as the founder, to like kind of shift your vision.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you cope with that? Were you like, oh yes, of course we have to listen to what they're doing, or again, did you go into market research and kind of look at competitors?
Yeah, like obviously there's one other major stop motion app that really didn't hold me back from pivoting, because their platform is more for like claymation type of videos. What I'm targeted to is, like I said, brands, influencers, and creators. So we have, you know, we're not just a stop motion app. We're like this holistic one-stop shop where you can learn, you can edit, you can shoot. And we're like really trying to build like this large community of stop motion creators specifically for marketing. And I was happy to go with the pivot, because for me, like, as long as I see people are seeing value in that, and it's still a video app. So at the end of the day, as long as people are creating videos and having it like be more catered towards marketers is actually more in my space, because I did work in marketing for, I need to figure this out, 5 to 7 years, whatever that time gap was, 21 to 28. So yeah, I guess 7 years.
Yeah.
So I actually feel like I can speak to this audience more, and my target audience is me. So it was an easy switch for me. But like, I do recommend to entrepreneurs, if you're not finding success with whatever your solution is now, to don't be married to a specific concept or a product. If you see people are finding value in another way that you didn't initially intend for, then like, if you see the market is for that, then like, why wouldn't you switch to that, you know?
Yeah. And that's actually one of your business tips, is not being married to your initial idea and pivoting with what your target audience is saying that they find value in. And if you don't mind, I want to jump into your other business tips.
Sure.
So your next one is progress over
perfection.
I wrote it wrong. I wrote progress over progression. I'm like, what?
What does that mean?
So your next one is progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Fail fast and learn. So can you go into detail about what that means to you?
Yeah. So as you may have guessed, like, I execute on things quickly. And I truly believe that if you are waiting for something to be perfect, it's never going to launch. And if you just put something out into the world that's, you know, maybe it has a typo in it or whatever it is, maybe there's a minor bug. Obviously we do lots of QA testing, but once you just put it out into the world, you're going to learn if, one, people like it or not, or even like the typo example, people will tell you, and it's like, it's not the end of the world, just update it. Maybe it's not the most professional, but you know, we're bootstrapped. I don't have the budget for this large team to be overseeing every minor detail that I'm doing, though I do have somebody now, and it's awesome to have a second set of eyes, because I absolutely suck at spelling and grammar.
It's knowing your weaknesses though.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, like, I love that you have this approach to it, because you're proof that you don't have to be perfect. And I'm air quoting here for the people who are just listening. And you can still be profitable.
Yeah.
You can still be very successful.
Totally. Even if something doesn't work out, you're going to learn something from it. So who cares if you fail? I think the more you fail, the more you're going to learn, and that's going to help you more in the long run.
Can you give us an example of when you failed and then you learned something from it?
Yes. So I mentioned this to you before, but I was on Dragon's Den, and it was an epic failure. I got like totally destroyed on the show, but
Okay, just for everyone listening, before you continue about your experience, I watched your clip, and I know you were there for a lot longer than they showed, but in that clip, it doesn't look too bad.
Okay, well,
okay, tell us.
They said some pretty awful things that weren't included in the final edit, and I'm not going to focus on that. But like, it's a TV show, right? So they need it to be dramatic. Obviously, I went into this thinking like they're going to invest in me, and it was just like a huge shock. And a reality check that what I had, well, first of all, I went on the show when I was not a stop motion video app. So I pitched this whole other idea of like where I was going to take the company to make it sound investable. And I'd say my learning from that is, well, don't pitch for investment until you have traction and product market fit. So we did have downloads, we did have a bit of revenue. Was this a scalable business as like a pregnancy / travel time lapse app? No, like it's just not a venture appealing business. So again, my key learning from that was just don't pitch to investors until you either pitch before you launch or pitch when you have major traction, revenue, growth in users, all that stuff.
Would you go to investors now?
I'm not opposed to getting investment. The thing is, it takes up so much time to reach out to investors. And as somebody who's been the only full-time employee in the company for the past 3 years up until a month ago, like I've gotten to where I am because I'm in the business growing it and executing on everything from marketing to like, I've got obviously an amazing team of contractors who do development, customer service, all that stuff. But, you know, I'm the one building out the SOPs and doing all of that and responding to managing all these people. So like, I can't really step out of the business to like maybe get funding.
Yeah. So then if I have the timeline correct, because you said that it was like the personal time lapse in the first 8 months. And when you pitched Dragon's Den, that was, I guess, in the first 8 months.
Yeah. So we filmed in May, we launched in April. So it was like basically right after Dragon's Den, I was like, okay, what am I doing with this company?
Oh.
And then,
So it was right before.
Dragon's Den was right before we pivoted.
Oh, okay.
Like before we started slowly integrating stop motion features. So it wasn't like a hard pivot of like, we're this personal time-lapse app and now we're stop motion. It was more like showing all of the use cases and trying to please everyone versus now we're like very much, we're marketing to like brands, influencers, creators to create these eye-catching videos for their social media pages.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Because I was wondering because you said in the investment, going to investments and preparing takes a lot of time. When you were working on it by yourself in the first 8 months, what made you decide to go on the show in the first place?
Oh, I was just like, this is going to be awesome. National exposure. I'll go viral.
Is that what happened?
No, absolutely not.
Did you get a spike in users?
Like a tiny bit, but not much. And like, it was,
Okay.
If only I went on like this year or next year, I think it would have been pretty successful because we have a clear vision now. And we're just like a more appealing company to invest in, but it is what it is.
It's okay. You learned from it.
Yeah.
And that's what that tip is all about.
Yeah.
If you fail, not a problem, as long as you learn from it.
Yeah, exactly.
So your next tip that you provided was have patience, trust the process. Now, I've heard this before, but I don't understand what that means. So can you tell us what this process we're trusting is?
So for me, I am always like really quick to jump on everything. Like if I have a business idea tonight, I will have a name, a domain purchase, an Instagram handle secured like before I go to bed. So for me, yes.
Oh my God, that's amazing though. It's amazing, but I understand where you're going with this. Okay, continue.
So for me in like development, and just growing a business in general, you need patience to see the impact. Like, you need patience to see the impact of what you're putting out into the world. It's not going to happen overnight. And like specifically with development, it's a slow process. Like, if I want things changed in the app, it's not going to be live tomorrow. I need to work with designers and build up the mock-ups and then send it to my project manager. And then they're going to have questions, and then they need to code it, and then they need to do QA, and then we need to submit it to Apple and wait for them to approve it. And then and then we'll launch it, and then maybe there's a bug, and then like it's a huge process, and it takes, as somebody who's very, very impatient, this has like been very testing and hopefully making me grow as a human, but I still feel like I have no patience, so maybe not.
So I never developed an app before. Let's say you change a feature in the product. You have to go through this long process that you just said. And let's say everything goes right. How long does that take?
Oh, it totally depends on what the feature is. Like,
oh, okay.
Are you just adding a link to a video? Are you like,
let's say you're changing like where a feature is.
I don't know, because I'm not a developer. But like, I know for me and my team, if we're doing something like we're integrating filters into the actual video editing, or we're adding a feature inside the camera, let's say like an interval timer, that's going to be way more intricate to develop, because it has to do with the logic of the camera and the editor, versus if we're adding a link to our Instagram page on our settings menu. Like, that'll be very quick, like a couple hours.
That's very quick.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it just depends, and it's testing your patience.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
You're still working on this project though, so it means you like it, and you're gaining your patience because it's working.
Exactly.
So your next tip is to provide value. And for all the listeners out there, what are your 3 tips you can provide on how to consistently provide value?
I don't know if I have 3 tips per se, but I would say put yourself in the shoes of your customer. So what do they want to see from you to provide value? So for example, our app, like stop motion, it can be a process to create. Even with our app, that makes it 10 times quicker than using $500 desktop software, a DSLR. Even though we're still an all-in-one app, you still need a few key things, like you need to stabilize your phone. So whether you place it against a mug or on a tripod that you have, not moving your camera while you're shooting is an integral part of creating a good stop motion video. So for us, and providing value, like we're always putting out tutorials and tips and different hacks so that the user can feel empowered to use our software and feel confident and have good results with their video. So I guess, like, what is the trigger point for your customer that will make them either like purchase your top, or I don't know, whatever, like what kind of listeners do you normally have? Are they e-com? Are they SaaS? Do you know?
I don't know exactly. No, I don't.
Okay, so let's
say SaaS.
Okay, SaaS. So let's say it's like, I don't know. Do you have
okay, e-com.
I would say let's say you're selling a pair of jeans.
Yeah.
Maybe providing value to that person is showing them different body types, or that size jean in a model in every size. Or I don't know, maybe it's like showing a video of different ways to wear it and how to style it. And so like you can put this out on social media, you can have it on your product pages, email marketing, integrated everywhere, so that they get to that point of being like, yes, I see myself in these jeans, I'm sold, they meet like my requirements of being sustainable, comfortable, blah, blah, blah.
So everyone has to have the equivalent of your customer saying, I see myself in those jeans.
Yeah.
That's the end result.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And for your last tip that you have is to have fun and don't take yourself too seriously. So I'm assuming that at one point you were taking yourself too seriously and you had to kind of overcome that. So can you tell us a little bit more about what
No,
this...
you're actually wrong. I
Oh,
am like never serious to the point where like people underestimate me all the time. And it's like maybe a problem, but honestly, if you're not having fun building a business, then like, what are you doing? Unless you're saving lives, like just have fun with it. Nobody's going to die. Like you're probably building something that you're super passionate about.
Yeah. So this is coming from one of your qualities where you've
Sure,
seen
if you
that.
call it a quality.
Yeah, I think so, because you probably started so many businesses and you probably ended the ones that you weren't having fun with and then you moved on.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're having the most fun because now LifeLapse, you're spending all your time into it, you're creating and it's growing and you're staying with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually noticed something about all your businesses.
Oh, what did you notice?
They're all product based. None of them are service based.
So I actually did do a lot of video work freelance before I launched LifeLapse. So as I was working in-house creating brand videos, I was also doing freelance. So I would shoot street style photos for influencers. I would do brand videos for small businesses. I even filmed weddings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've done it all.
Yeah.
Service and product. I find
Yeah.
product really hard though, actually. I have to admit, my hat's off to anyone who can scale a product-based business.
And why do you say that? What's the most difficult part about it?
Like the margins.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so for obviously a tech company, we get maybe 1,500 downloads a day. That doesn't really, I don't really have to do anything on my end to fulfill that. Obviously there's potentially some customer service, but whether I have like 1 million downloads or 5, I can wake up and pretty much have the same work day versus I feel like if you have million orders of jeans coming in, you need to figure out that whole logistics and operations side, which I find very overwhelming. And the whole when to place orders, and need fulfillment centers, whether you're doing this you're white labeling or you're doing it in-house or you're doing drop ship. Obviously drop shipping is easy, but
easier for sure. Yeah.
Easier. But then you don't have the brand side. I don't know. There's just so many moving parts. And as somebody who my main bread and butter is like a SaaS company, I find the whole product side very overwhelming.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you look at it that way, usually when I'm interviewing entrepreneurs, they usually specialize in let's say just service-based or just, one specific domain or area. And so it's so interesting that you just kind of dip your toes into all of them. And then you kind of have an opinion of which one's your favorite and which one you want to go with. So that's pretty cool.
So I think if I stuck with any of the businesses long enough, I could have been successful.
Yeah.
I have this high of starting it. I'm a serial starter, I would say. And then once I launch it, and then I'm just kind of okay, what's next?
But you get to the launching point, which I feel like a lot of people who want to be an entrepreneur and want to get started just have this struggle to have the idea to execution. And that's your specialty.
Yeah, it really is.
But then I guess you realize that maybe you're not as passionate about it. And then maybe that's why you stop.
Well, for the quarantine cards, obviously quarantine's coming to an end. So that's why I stopped. The other ones that I've started, the service-based one of filming, I launched LifeLapse because I want to build a video solution that's scalable on a global level. Me having a global impact doing videography is that it's trading time for money. I don't like trading time for money anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And to get where I am with LifeLapse, to do that with videography, I would basically never have to sleep and probably duplicate myself a couple times. They're like put out as much and have much as an impact on all the people that are downloading our app as I would be with a videography service.
So this is the No Formula podcast because
Yep.
there's no formula to success. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to write out your own formula
Yep.
to where you got today, what would your formula be?
Just do it. Like, seriously, so many people are just so hung up. And like, I listen to tons of podcasts and I buy tons of online courses.
Mm-hmm.
But I think so many people get fixated on trying to learn everything before they actually start executing, that they just have this like basically analysis paralysis where they just feel so overwhelmed and they don't actually start anything. Like what you said about people who they want to start something, but they never take the leap. It's because there's so much information out there. It's like they're trying to like find this their own perfect formula. But if they just bought the domain, if they just put up a simple landing page, if they started just marketing with this very like minimal viable product, they could start learning and just go from there instead of waiting for the perfect time, waiting for the perfect website, waiting for the perfect graphics, photography, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So my formula is just hack your way into everything. Like, just do it. If you have to be scrappy, that's fine. Because you're not going to get like your first dollar or your first customer if you're not live. So
yeah, I think people also don't realize like you have to start making money for you to be an entrepreneur.
yeah. And then like in the tech space, traditionally people love to get funding and they love that flashy PR. And I think a lot of these companies, like they get all this funding and then they build these large teams, but they just spend so much time on the funding and all that stuff. It's like they're not actually in the business. I mean,
growing it.
Yeah. From what I've seen, like if you were just in the business, listening to your customers, reading your reviews, providing the value, like I said, I think you could just scale it that way.
Awesome advice.
Yeah.
And before
obviously
ending,
it's not every tech company, but
yeah,
just from what I've seen, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, that's from your experience, so it makes
and
sense.
As somebody who's successfully built LifeLapse without funding,
that's so true.
I think everyone can do it.
That's so true. You did it.
Yeah.
You grew it to where it was today.
Yeah.
Before ending this episode, what is in store for LifeLapse?
Yes. So on the business backend, we are actually launching a sign-in feature in the app. So right now, if you download the app, you don't need to sign in at all. You can just open the app, start creating. We'll never email you. We'll never send you push notifications. So we're leaving a lot on the table by not having an email. You've probably heard how crucial email marketing is in today's day and age. And with the huge learning curve of people not really sure how to create videos, I'm really excited to be launching email in about 3 weeks so that we can really educate our user and again, provide that value on how they can maximize their time inside our app. And then, we're just focused on building out our academy, more tutorials, and focused on really growing our community. Yeah.
Well, I really like the app. I haven't perfected it yet.
Yeah.
But I will get there by the time this podcast gets released.
Okay. I just put a new getting started video live on YouTube.
Okay, I'll
it's
go check
actually
it
in
out.
a blog post. I'll send you the blog post after.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. Because I tried another one, but again, I wasn't steady. And because I forgot, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to try it. It'll work. It didn't work. I was like, ugh.
So we have hacks. We have some hacks for you on how you can keep it steady without buying a tripod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Send me the blog.
I will.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your insight and your experience.
Thanks for having us on.
Yes, this was amazing. And
Can I also add, if anyone
yeah.
wants to see what stop motion is, if they're not familiar, to check us out on Instagram. Our handle is LifeLapse_app. So LifeLapse_app. And we post tutorials there too. So if you want to start learning, start creating, follow us there.
I do follow you guys there too, and it's very cute. I like the ones when they're like outfit changes.
Oh, yeah.
I like those ones. Those ones are cool. Anyway, I'm definitely going to be keeping in touch with you and using your app, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Thank you. I can't wait to see what you create.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially after you stabilize the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be watching and waiting.
I'll send it to you. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Have a great day.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.